Welcome to the Dad Golf Podcast with Tuck Sauce and Hambino, brought to you by the Golf Trip Junkie. Make sure that you're checking us out on Instagram at the Dad Golf Podcast and on Twitter at the Dad Golf Pod, Facebook, the Dad Golf Podcast, our website, dadgolf.club, and we are also on YouTube. Make sure if you are listening to this right now, to subscribe, rate us 5 stars. As a reminder, on Apple Podcasts, every 5-star rating makes Ian play 9 holes of golf. Also, if you're old enough to be listening to this podcast, just do yourself a favor, reach down and take 2 Tums because you probably need it if you are a dad. Ian, speaking of heartburn, and which that you give me every single week, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm back. You know, you carried the podcast last week, so appreciate it as always. You know, I was out in Pittsburgh watching Florida State, but I'm happy to be back on the pod and see your beautiful face. You got a really nice, for those on YouTube, you got a really nice fit today. You know, Tucker rarely looks good. This is a good look for Tucker. This is peak Tucker. This is probably when he attracted Lisa. It was something like this.
Ian, to just, since you're complimenting me, I'll just go ahead and compliment you that your absence probably led to our best episode that we've ever had last week. It was probably our most entertaining thing that we've ever done. So thank you so much for
No
not
problem,
being
pal.
here. Or
I'm happy. Anytime you need me to take a week off, I'm more than happy to do so.
Well, to get in the middle of our domestic that Ian and I are currently having, we are joined by Allan Blocker, creator of Golf Pops, which makes children's books for golf-obsessed parents. He's worked for a bunch of major equipment manufacturers in the golf industry and spent time out on tour creating content with the best golfers in the world, mainly just an everyday golfer with young kids, and felt all books out there didn't resonate with serious golfers. And so together got a group of golfing dads together to create their own. I have their book here, if you can see it on YouTube. It's fantastic. My son loves it, even as he's now 1, loves the illustrations. But Allan, how are you tonight, buddy?
Doing great. This is like our first proper media endeavor. So stoked to be here.
Stoked to have you. Really, I know we've been talking about this for now a couple of weeks, or a couple of months at this point. And what we like to do here, first of all, tonight we're going to talk about a topic that we're going to revisit a lot. We did this with Ben, but we're also going to do it with Allan tonight. We're going to talk about getting our kids into the game of golf. This is a topic that honestly you all come in to listen to. It's our most popular episode we've had on the pod, so we're going to revisit and take some of Allan's perspective. But Allan, let me ask you first and foremost, you're a California guy, so do they even have hot dogs in California?
There are a lot of hot dogs, and there's even some pretty famous ones. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Burger Dog up at Olympic Club.
Yeah,
but we have those, and then we also have, you don't really see them at golf clubs, but they have these street dogs that are really common after like sporting events, which are just like, these people will take like cooking sheets and put them over coals, and they're just rolling them around on little totes, but they bacon wrap hot dogs and have like peppers, and you pay $5 and they'll like whip them up for you. So there's a pretty good like sneaky dog scene out here.
Well, Allan, what we like to do with guests is just throw them in the deep end, get them ready for the podcast, and we ask them 5 hot dog related questions in a segment that we like to call Wiener on Your Mind. So there's no prep for this needed. Wiener on Your Mind. We are still, if anybody would like to sponsor this segment, it's one of our fun ones, still open. But Wiener on Your Mind. Allan, are you ready? 5 hot dog related questions, rapid fire.
Let's do it.
Okay, ketchup or mustard?
Both.
Potato or pretzel bun?
Pretzel, but I hate to be like not authentic, but pretzel tastes better.
Red or white onions?
White, for sure.
Grilled or roller dogs?
Grilled.
And chili or no chili?
No chili.
No chili. Now, is this a golf course pick that you're doing for all of your toppings, or is this the at home Allan pick as well?
I was just kind of thinking generically. I mean, there's a lot of different circumstances in terms of how I dog. Like, I'm pretty into cooking, so if I'm going to do dogs at home, I'll be pretty extravagant about it, get some like really good ingredients. If I'm at a ball game, I'll probably delve a little bit harder into like fixins, just because you're sitting down and you have the time to actually do it. On the course, you're kind of like whipping around. You're usually in a bit of a rush, so sometimes I'll just get down and dirty and just like mustard and ketchup, or sometimes just mustard and like slam it down because I don't like greasy hands while I'm playing. So it's kind of all of the above.
Would you say that you were describing the after the game and they just like roll it back and forth on a cooking sheet, but it's over coals? Would you consider that a roller dog or not?
No, I consider roller dog like 7-Eleven.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure, because I mean, it does roll, sounds like. So just wanted to clarify for those listening.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to flip a hot dog unless you're like a serial killer, right?
Well, careful who you're talking to on this podcast.
Is this like food trucks, or are these just dudes out there selling hot dogs on the corner?
Dudes and chicks. It's probably might even be slanted in the favor of women running these things. But I went to a Chargers game the other day up at SoFi, and it's funny because like it's a pretty elite new venue and it's LA and everything's like kind of scaled up for a sporting event. And then I'm not kidding you, I've never seen so many street dog like vendors with these carts. There were like 8 of them lined up when you were leaving the stadium. So they're pretty hard to avoid out here.
Hell of a game to be at, by the way. That was quite the game. I mean, not if you're a Chargers fan, but
this was the Bears game. So
okay, got it. Okay, well, there's no exciting Bears game ever. So got it.
Not at all.
Brandon Staley is ruining Justin Herbert's career. But besides that, let me ask, how many adult beverages does it take for you to partake in a random hot dog that you find off of on a street corner here? Is this something that you would do just walking into the stadium, or do we have to have 2 or 3 let's call it adult sodas?
No, I think if they were more readily available on the walk into the stadium, I think I'd be way more up for it. But typically at the end of the night, like, I've already crushed some dogs, so it's not like I mean, yeah, I don't think adult beverages plays a role in it. I know that's typically why they're there, but for me it's like they are just really good. It's just if I'm hungry or not.
I just wonder about like the quality of it, because right, sometimes we're talking about food that is like the best food on the planet, but you have to be in a certain state for it to be the best food on the planet. But like any other time that you even look at it would be something that makes your stomach turn. So I didn't know if it was one of those aspects or if it's actually just a genuinely good hot dog.
No, so the saying goes out in Southern California, if there's like, even for a proper restaurant, if they're rated a B, B is for bueno.
I like that.
Oh man. Well, Allan, I know I did a very short intro about yourself. I would say here, what would if you had to talk to one story, what is it that got you into the golf world? What got you into the game of golf?
Yeah, so I've kind of always liked golf. I was more of a baseball player, but I would just like going to the driving range with my baseball buddies and like smashing it. So I was actually working at a tech startup in Venice Beach, and I was about to get married. And I don't know if you're familiar with Venice Beach, but it's not very conducive to like family life. So I was just like, what would be the best like brands to work for in the world? And I started looking into golf just because it was entertaining at the time. And I applied for a tailor-made social media role, which at the very end, it even said on like the job description that you had to be like a single-digit golfer, which I was like probably a 20-something at the time. And even before they like offered me the job, they're like, hey, we're really worried about this. Like, why should we hire you? You're going to be talking as a golfer on behalf of like one of the top brands in the world. It's just like, I don't know, I'm pretty good at social media. I think I can figure out how to talk to people, but it was funny when I came to the company and started playing with like diehard golfers and like their vernacular. Like I remember this one guy, one time he's like, do you want to come up? And I was just like, uh, what do you mean? So like there was a bit of a learning curve that they understood that I didn't, but I got the gig and now I'm just like golf obsessed. I love it. Love being in the industry. I golf a ton. I go to work, market golf. Like I just can't get enough golf.
Oh, it's
Yeah, like
wild. Ian and I have talked a lot about this, and Ian, I'll let you take the floor on this. But we watch a lot of like golf content now, and it's amazing how much golf content out there that is the most watchable stuff that is from guys that aren't good players, that aren't single digit handicaps. I mean, like Bob does sports is one of them, right? Of making the game sort of like more relatable versus like trying to make it more unattainable. It's amazing how much that's changed over the last 5 years.
Yeah, I think that's totally it. You know, like people want to be able to kind of connect with golfers that are like them. You know, what you see on tour, like that almost kind of ruins golf in a way in terms of like playing with people. And I'm sure you guys have played with dudes that are missing like 8-footers and 12-footers. Like, oh, I can't make anything because, you know, on TV coverage, they just show guys burying that stuff nonstop. So it's funny. I think that's also kind of the case on YouTube a little bit. Like I've heard definitely sometimes they'll like get some stuff out where the shot quality is not what they want it to be.
right.
But we're all human. We're all a little vain. So I think it's great that like, you know, content overall and just like YouTube and what people are doing on social media, like it's definitely helping grow the game. And I think it's going to keep that trajectory just because there's so much interesting content coming out about it, not even at like a YouTube level, but like TGL and what they were just doing on Netflix. Like it's just an entertaining thing to watch and people can't get enough of it.
I'm really interested to see what they do with TGL, because the Netflix thing, I'll be honest, I had zero interest in watching the Netflix thing. I still haven't watched. I've seen like clips and stuff. I'm not saying that it was bad. I just it didn't pique my interest. The TGL thing does a little bit. Well, one, because it's Tiger, but like what Tucker's saying, I think the Bob Does Sports and all that is just, you hit it. It's like it's just relatable content. Like, you know, your 25 handicapper that may have just gotten into golf because of COVID, and that was one of the few things you can do. Like he'll never play like Justin Thomas or Tiger Woods, but you know who we play like? He'll play like Bob or Quan on Good because he stinks, even though everyone loves him. You know, like, you know, it's just relatable content, and then they go and play places that you can go play, and I think that helps as well. Like you're not playing from 450-yard par fours. You have a 340-yard par four, which is what you play at home. So, and you shank a shot just like they shank a shot, and you know you can get in and out in like 40 minutes on these like episodes. And I think that stuff, all those little things help. And then once you would digest that, well, great, then you start to watch golf on a Sunday, right? Or then you may do X, Y, and Z. Now you may go to Top Golf. So I just think all of that's so good for golf, and all this exposure that we've been seeing is good. I'm a little nervous it may get overexposed, but that's all. I mean, if you're overexposed, that's not a bad thing either, I guess. It means the game's in your face all the time.
It's great for the golf industry.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, so many outlets to find your content too, which is nice.
Totally.
Look, I think we can then move on to the main body of this episode. How do we get our kids involved? Because I think this is a good basis of that. I think one of the things that over the last 5 years that have happened for most of us that were serious golfers, especially before the pandemic, Allan, you've probably seen this working in the line of business that you have. Golf has changed since COVID, right? And whether it's both been the demographic, the amount of people playing, right? But I think to this podcast and this the territory of this podcast, the reasons that they're playing have drastically changed, right? If we think of golf, I think prior to pandemic, after pandemic, most golfers were, even if they weren't quote unquote serious golfers, were playing in their men's games, or there was like, I'm doing this to be good at golf and to improve at golf and to be better at golf, where it's become a lot more of a social aspect. And I think some of that has a lot to do with the pandemic, in that the only thing you could do socially was be outside. That was something, but also things like Top Golf, right? And that addition of kind of, you know, the bro golf movement definitely has something to do with it, obviously. But I'm very excited where golf sits, because I think a lot of people are getting out there for a lot of different reasons, and if you only have one reason to grow a game, you're eliminating a lot of people, and I don't think that's necessarily the best thing.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of it is, people were just kind of, I don't want to say forced to have a club in their hand, but they had a golf club in their hand and they were trying to hit a shot. And whether it's Top Golf or driving range or whatever, and no matter what age you are, like once you hit a pretty decent shot that gets up in the air and gets moving, and knowing how difficult that is by not hitting a shot like that for however many tries, like I've seen it with my wife, I've seen it with my kids, like it really is just having one or two shots that's like, this is really hard, but it's obtainable and I want to keep trying to obtain it. So I think that's just the biggest thing. Once you get people to try it to the point where they could see a little bit of success, that's where you get that like little bit of dopamine hit where you just want to keep trying it.
Oh, 100%. I have a buddy, Mike, who listens to this podcast, who was never into golf, and it's like the one shot that keeps making you come back. I do want to touch on something that you started on, Tucker, is like kind of the bro golf movement. And I've heard like contrasting, because we were golfers before that movement, right? And so some of my buddies are like, well, I don't like this bro movement, and there's too many people playing on my course. I think that movement in a weird way helped everyone, because what I have seen is, all right, so now you get more guys on the golf course that were never playing golf. That's good for golf on its own. But then your super serious guys started to say, okay, well, I need to probably look at private clubs. And so like the private club business started to boom. So it's like all this like transition of golfers kind of forced these elitists into private clubs. Now the private clubs are thriving. You cannot get a membership in Florida right now. It's like impossible. Whereas 10 years ago, they were dying out. Like they were begging for public play half the time. So golf is in a great spot, and it's good, because we were all nervous. Like, what would happen to golf post Tiger? What would happen to golf post like Phil and all these guys? Because the ratings for the PGA got slaughtered if Tiger wasn't playing. Well, now I don't think it matters. Guys are just playing golf. They don't need the PGA guys to carry the game of golf, which for a while it seemed like it was almost dependent. The popularity was almost dependent on what was on TV.
Yeah, and it's always been that. There's always been the like bro golfers in golf. It's just like the sheer volumes at every level that's like pushing it. And another big thing is just like pop culture too, with like Travis Kelce and like Bieber and all these people that love golf, like
DJ Khaled.
I was just gonna say, the guy that screams his name all the time. Like that's that makes a difference. That brings in 100%. Some different walks of life to golf, and sometimes I've seen some people that haven't been playing that long that don't really fit like the golfer bill, and like they're good players. Like they figure it out, and there's like these different little cliques and subculture in golf where it's not just like bro, elitist, competitive. Now there's like hipster golf and like ladies clubs. Like it just kind of spans everything, and it's cool that the game's kind of bringing that all together.
It's amazing.
It's cool that the game is moving from a group that you could literally sit there and pick out what your stereotypical golfer has looked like, and has moved into, well, a bunch of different people. Because that was, I mean, I'm former PGA, Ian's PGA. That was the thing that they were harping on for 30 years and couldn't actually manage it, right? And couldn't figure out how to get like that demographic to expand. And now, like to your point, we have, I follow a guy on Instagram that just reviews new golf shoes, and it's almost like that basketball like shoe demographic that are all now being pulled into, and they go play golf because like the thing they like to do is rock new golf shoes, and it's a thing of showing off. And it's like, and I think one of the things as guys that have been in the game for forever is not to hate on somebody who got into the game because of that, but to embrace it and say, hey, your reasoning might be different, right? The way that you came into the game might have been different than mine, but as long as you enjoy it, it really doesn't matter, right? Like, because it should be a game. That's the problem golf has had from the beginning. not from the beginning, because at the beginning, golf was a game for everybody. It was literally, right, shepherds out there hitting rocks with sticks. And then through time, it became a golf. Yeah. But then through time, it became a game for very, very few people. And now we're getting to a point that it's a game for everybody. And I think that's awesome. So
yeah, it's, my other hobby is surfing, and it's funny because like surfing and golf had like big booms during COVID, and surfing's such a like anti-exposure sport where like they don't want more people surfing, and they'll like seriously try to make you uncomfortable while you're out there to make sure you don't surf their spots or whatever. So like seeing how conflicting like the COVID surfers were with like core surfers, and then seeing how like welcoming golf has been overall, like it's kind of a beautiful thing that golf is more like accepting different walks of life, and it's just like it's a cooler, trendier sport now overall, which I think is great.
Well, so let's do this. I want to continue this conversation, but we do have to take an advertising break because people do actually support us. So we just got to take a quick second. We will be right back after this with more conversation about Allan, and then I really want to expand this conversation to how we can apply it to our kids, because I think this is the root of this all. So just bear with us, and we'll be right back with some more conversation, as well as Ian, your favorite time of the week.